It wasn't some big product launch or a massive security breach that set the tech world on fire. Nope. It was just a single message in a private chat group, a tiny spark that ignited this huge firestorm over culture, competition, and who really holds the power in the cloud. This isn't just about a heated argument. It's a story that really unpacks the insane pressures facing today's tech giants and what that means for all of us who exist in their world. So let's break down exactly what happened and why it's such a big deal.
Okay, so here's what started it all. A pretty well-known tech influencer, who goes by Rain God, shares a technical article about Google's Gemini. And where does he share it? In a 400-person AWS user community in Beijing. Now, sharing interesting articles, even about competitors, is super common in these tech circles. It's how people learn and talk. But this time, oh man, the reaction was anything but common.
Almost immediately, a group admin, who happens to be an AWS partner development manager, jumps in with this. It's a pretty sharp reply. The message here is crystal clear. This is our house, and we don't talk about the competition here.
But it was the author's response that really blew this whole thing up. No big fight, no long-winded defense, just two simple lines, and he was out. That quiet, decisive exit was the move that just echoed across all the private tech channels, and it turned this little group spat into a massive conversation about platform power.
And this is where the author really starts to break things down. He framed this whole incident not as some simple misunderstanding, but as a fundamental clash between one of Amazon's most famous corporate values and what its own employees were doing on the ground.
I mean, look at this. It really lays out the contradiction he saw. On one side, you've got Amazon's legendary leadership principle, customer obsession. The whole idea that you prioritize your customers' needs above everything else. And on the other side, you have an employee basically kicking a user out because he was interested in the wider tech world. To the author, this wasn't just a mistake, it was just blatant hypocrisy.
And then he took it a step further with this direct challenge. He basically calls out the top leadership in the entire region, asking if they even understand their own company's rules. See, he wasn't just going after one manager anymore. He was saying, hey, this is a symptom of a much deeper cultural problem in your organization.
So this whole mess led the author to come up with this really powerful metaphor to explain the power dynamics he thinks are playing out across the entire cloud industry. He calls it the cyber landlord theory. He describes these giant cloud providers as cyber landlords. In his view, their platforms and communities, they aren't open town squares for innovation and discussion. No, they're treated more like private estates, where the landlord makes all the rules and they expect you to be completely loyal just for being there.
And well, if the company is the landlord, what does that make the customers and partners? Digital tenant farmers. You get to work the land, you get to use the platform, but you don't own it. You're dependent, you're subject to the landlord's rules, and you're definitely not supposed to be caught looking over the fence at the neighbor's property.
But why? Why would a landlord with so much power act like this? What's the point of this kind of gatekeeping? Well, the author argues that this arrogant behavior, it isn't coming from a place of strength. He thinks it's coming from a place of deep, deep anxiety and just intense internal business pressure.
He points to this absolutely staggering number, a supposed $200 billion infrastructure mortgage. I mean, just think about that for a second. That's this huge ongoing cost of all the data centers and hardware that AWS has to make a profit on. The author's point is that this immense financial pressure is what's really creating this defensive, almost paranoid culture.
And he gets specific about what's fueling this anxiety. First, there's a feeling that AWS was kinda late to the game on large language models. Then he claims its Greater China region is really underperforming on its revenue targets. And on top of that, its AI services in that region are apparently being held back by supply chain and compliance problems.
And this all leads to his sharpest, most unforgettable line. It's a quote that just powerfully connects those high-level financial pressures directly to the way people are behaving in a chat group. The idea is simple. When the landlord is stressed about collecting rent, that pressure flows downhill, and the frontline employees, well, they can turn into overly aggressive guard dogs.
So, after all that, what are we supposed to do with this information? Well, this is where the author pivots from criticizing the company to offering a real strategic lesson for everyone else. He connects his own simple action to a much bigger idea for businesses.
He calls his decision to leave the chat group a graceful escape. And he presents it as a sort of small-scale practice run for something much more important, a company's ability to smoothly and strategically get away from a cloud provider that's become too controlling or just too expensive.
And he gives some actual, concrete advice for any CTO or developer listening.
He says, do a simple audit. Look at your last 6 months of cloud bills. Find the services where the costs keep going up, but you're not getting any more business value out of them. And then ask yourself the tough question. Could we cut 30% of this cost right now without our customers even noticing? He says that's the first step to taking back your digital sovereignty.
And finally, he leaves us with this really provocative question. It's designed to completely reframe how we even talk about the cloud. He's saying the whole debate shouldn't be about who has the best tech specs or which brand you like more. Instead, the only question that really matters is about the bottom line. It's a powerful final thought that really challenges all of us to shift our focus away from the services we use and onto the value we actually create.